Hey, everybody, this is Erik. Today was a stay at home day because I was a little bit under the weather, but I thought we'd do a little bit of talk around family roles. Family roles are really cool. In fact, I will say that I learned more about how alcoholism affected my life by being in a class. It was a master's level class. It took me a long time, and in that class, they said that families where there have these firstborn is kind of perfect, and the secondborn is not perfect, and the last child often or thirdborns love animals, and it's like, oh wow, wow, wow. So I'm going to go through these roles. Why are there roles? Well, it's because it kind of distracts from mom and dad's issues. The kids begin to be affected a certain way, and it's all unconscious, very, very unconscious. So typically, the firstborn is kind of perfect. Why are they perfect? Well, the mom and dad want to do a good job. So they may be boiling their toys to make sure they're disinfected enough. And I mean, my mom did that bit. Um, you just work really hard. You don't want to fail, So this kind of gets downloaded to the firstborn. And so the secondborn, the parents are more relaxed. And that secondborn is born sharing. That firstborn got mom and dad to themselves, but after a while, they have another one. Well, the firstborn has to go through the grief of now I'm not the center of the universe. And the secondborn was born sharing. Okay. But it's how do we get attention? How do we get love? How do we get noticed? So the firstborn is on the outside perfect. They can't be wrong. They get positive attention. They get awards, degrees, and they can be compulsive workaholics, and they can be pastors and priests and lawyers and doctors and missionaries, people that are just wonderful. What you don't see is they have this strong fear of failing, and they're over controlling. They're just very uptight. What did they do for the family? Well, they they do for the family, and they play along because the family treats them so well, and they get a lot of attention for being good. So the family feels we're not so bad. Mom and dad are good. Look, our son or our daughter has just worked on their third doctorate or done these wonderful things. Without help, they can be workaholic. They can have physical illnesses. They may struggle with boundaries of being able to say no, and they just because they want to look better than life. Um, they can be prideful and shameless. And shameless is that they really can't just be human. They're like a demigod. And if people are looking at early Christianity and looking at this would be vainglory and pride. The second born can't really compete. And so, as much as the firstborn gets positive attention, the secondborn gets negative attention. It's kind of like a magnet, kind of like a lightning rod. That lightning rods help distract the lightning to go hit the rod instead of destroy the whole town or the house. So, likewise, the scapegoat kind of takes the sins of the family upon themselves. They're kind of bad. They're always in trouble. They're risk takers. They feel like the black sheep of the family. They don't fit in. And on the outside, you'll see a lot of hurt. Well, on the outside, you see all this crazy behavior, drugs, troubles, legal problems, etc. What you don't see is hurt, rejection, full of shame, and feels like a loser. If they get married, they often find someone who's going to fix them. And they always feel like I need fixing. The hero feels good because the scapegoat is bad, and vice versa. We can't avoid our bad stuff by downloading it on the scapegoat. So it's important to understand, where do we even get the word scapegoat? Well, this word scapegoat came from um, Judaism, um, even early Christianity, where the priest would lay hands on this goat and send it out to the desert. And then from there, the desert, I mean, they would die. And it's kind of like they represented the sins of the people. And so that's what happens with scapegoating. Um, Without help, they can have addictions, problems with the law, promiscuous. They have a chip on their shoulder. They and they can do this in their jobs, and they continue to play this role until they identify it. With help, they can actually be really good and feel good about themselves. They learn to take appropriate risks. They're not so fearful as some of the other types because they're not worried about being good. They just want to try things. They can be missionaries and business owners. So after the first and second get attention, then there's a group of children that don't really get a lot of attention. They're called the lost child. They often want to be invisible, quiet, kind of ignored. They tend to love animals. They bond with animals, maybe in the material possessions, sometimes artistic, sometimes has learning disabilities. And I'm not sure where the research comes in for that, but first and second borns get a lot of attention, and then the third sometimes just fit in by not trying to be noticed. What you can't see is they have frozen feelings. They blend in. They're not there to really be angry or lonely, or I mean, they're lonely. They're not there to be outwardly noticed, but they can feel lonely. When I'm a family therapist, I will often ask them what they think, and they often are a treasure in terms of good information because they really look at things and watch things. What they do for the families, well, we don't need to worry about Mike or Mary. They're fine, But often we need to be aware of what's going on because the second born or the first are getting a lot of attention. These people don't get attention. They often don't share opinions. They don't feel needed. And I don't like this, but it's interesting. Someone said that they can die early because of this. People need to feel needed. And you'll notice this in a family gathering. Like literally, it happens. The more severe things is, did someone invite Mike? And it's like all these adults, they forgot to invite him to the family picnic. Quick, let's invite him. Now, with recovery, once they are in therapy or they identify this, they don't have to be in therapy, but they're really talented, creative individuals. They learn that they can be alone and they can be quiet and they're good listeners. And yeah, they can come out of their shell. So the last born is the clown or the mascot. They're often the baby, they call the baby the family, but they're funny, hysterical, anything for a laugh, cute, immature. They're just used to everybody telling them what to do. And sometimes they are a little bit immature. Sometimes they rebel and kind of want to get away from their family because all these people tell them what to do. They hide their pain with humor. They're scared. They feel inadequate because, again, people are constantly telling them, here's what to do. They bring comic relief to the family. So that's how they help them. And they help avoid issues. Someone could be on their deathbed, and this is the person who's going to help make everybody laugh. And it's welcomed. But there's a time to laugh and there's a time to cry and to grieve and to feel that pain. And they may need help feeling their pain, and it builds up, and they need to be able to have people around them, friends that say, well, what do you think? What do you want? And they may go, well, I don't know, tell me what I should do. And it's like, no, let's work through this. You have a voice, you have your own relationship with God, and they can learn to grow up and be more responsible, can feel the wide range of emotions, use laughter. So, in all this, the more dysfunctional the family is, the more strong these roles are written in cement. The more healthy, the more flexible. And I've had some really interesting, I don't think this would cause any harm. This happened 30 years ago, but I had worked with a family where the mother was bringing the son in and he had troubles. And bless her heart, but she would say things like, well, I think he's going to end up in prison like his uncle. And it's like, I don't think that's a good thing to say. Um, so was she the firstborn? Yeah. And was her brother the secondborn? Yes. And there would be things like she would notice the grades of her older daughter, but not the son. And so we don't judge the family. It's just the family system is sick. It's what's causing the problem. And so you kind of stir the pot up and let people be good and let people be not so good. And to get people talking that don't talk. And a wise therapist is going to see where those are played out. Sometimes you address it directly. Sometimes you can just point it out, draw it on the board, and people would go, I'd say 90% of the time, people go, my gosh, you just described my family. So health is, and I draw these roles in parentheses, or sorry, quotation marks. It's a role that we step in. So I, being a hero, have to step out of playing God and playing the role of I'm here to rescue and and when I interact with siblings, I have to see them beyond those roles. Or if something happens, then I try to sidestep it and um, encourage the opposite, and learn not to scapegoat for the sake of my own sanity. I will say this: in severe cases where there's mental illness, sometimes the person who struggles is the one with the scapegoat role. It's almost as if some have said that that old ancient archetype where the virgin had to be thrown in the volcano to appease the gods, to keep the lava from boiling over everybody. That's kind of what happens. Is it's an unconscious sacrifice, and people can be pretty rigid. Can this happen in churches? Oh, absolutely. Did this happen at the time of Christ? Oh, absolutely. People avoided their own sins by scapegoating Christ. It was that simple. Or dragging harlots, and pointing the finger and saying she's the one who sinned. Versus let's just look at our own problems. See the good in us, see the bad in us, see what we need to change and grow from there. So hopefully, oh, and I guess one last thing, this is a system. So they work together. Sometimes the first and second will trade roles. They'll just change. You'll see it. And I've seen it in my own family, which is kind of a step in the right direction because it's not that fixed state. And so think systemically, not so individually. You take care and have a great day.